Welcome to the Good Growing Podcast. I am Chris Enroth, horticulture educator with University of Illinois Extension, coming at you from Macomb, Illinois, and we have got a Garden Bite episode for you today, folks. It's a throwback back to when we had a couple educators on the show and we asked them to give us their top 3 native plants. Today, we're going to play for you the top 3 picks for our visiting Extension Outreach Associate, Layne Knoche. Now, Layne studied landscape architecture, and since then, he has been instrumental in teaching people about green infrastructure around the state of Illinois and getting rain gardens installed all over the state. And so Layne has some amazing pictures to go along with his picks. So if you're listening to us, we will put a link down below in the show notes so you can see our YouTube version of this where he shows some pretty great pictures of the plants that he has selected. His top 3, it's a little bit cruel, I know, but he did narrow it down to 3 plants for us. So with that, here are Layne's top 3 native plant picks for Illinois.
So I guess it's my turn to share the cruelly dictated 3 species that I had to limit myself to. I found a way to get another couple species in there though, without going into too much detail. So, all right. So I took forever trying to figure out the 3 species I wanted to talk about here today, but I finally whittled it down. And the first one I'll talk about is Slender mountain mint, also called narrowleaf mountain mint. And you have to forgive me, I'm still young in the profession and I'm still working on the botanical names, but Pycnanthemum tenuifolium, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll never be harsh on someone when it comes to scientific names, because that doesn't mean that you don't know them. It just means you've never said them.
Exactly. You know, I can pick, that name out of a list of 500. But I still like just saying it out loud for the very first time when I was doing run-throughs of this. I was like, is that really how it's pronounced? But I'm just going to go with it. So I appreciate it. Anyway, so this mountain mint is one that's commonly found throughout the state of Illinois. It's native to actually almost every county in the state, and that's the kind of native plant nerd that I like to get to. I like keeping the native species to the county, not just the state. But that's just me. To each their own. I think that this plant is really underused in the home garden, and I've actually only ever found it once at a nursery. It was down by St. Louis, but it was recently. So I'm hoping that this plant is starting to catch on. Otherwise, I'll usually just recommend for people to look for this one at local native plant sales, or use some online resources as well. This one is pretty easy to grow from seed. I've had pretty great success with it in past years. It usually does best in full sun, but it can tolerate anywhere from moist to dry soil. So it's got some adaptability there. It's not a huge plant, 1 to 3 feet usually in height, but it does form this really beautiful, dense, almost bush-like form. So its habit is sort of this tight, compact, foliage display. And then, of course, you come in with these amazing white flowers, which last for a very long time. Usually June through September is its bloom seasons. But in my gardens, I've had them last from May until October. It's really a great plant. So one of the other great benefits that I love about this plant is that it's got some seasonality to work with. In the winter months, it's got this really great, the seed heads on it are really showy. They have this dark color to them, and especially against other grasses and other forbs around it that usually will have a lighter color. These ones just really stand out. They bring some great texture, great form to the native landscape. And Another great part about this winter interest is that they don't usually flop over like a lot of our other species do. These ones will stay standing through the full winter. I'll usually burn my prairie, in March is when they'll finally come down. So Martha did butterfly weed, and so that was one that I was going to choose as well. So I'll just reiterate that that is a fantastic native species, but I will talk now about swamp milkweed, Asclepias incarnata. It's another plant that can be found throughout most of Illinois. I'm happy to say that a lot of nurseries do carry this one, especially your local native plant sales. You're just about guaranteed to find this one somewhere with some ease. And again, this one is another that grows really easily from seed. I've grown several hundred of them, and I can probably count on two hands the number of times that this one did not germinate. But that being said, and it's surprising to me because of that fact, that this is not as weedy or aggressive as a species as you might get with like common milkweed and others like that unfortunately turn a lot of people off from native plants in general. This one likes to be in full sun, and it does prefer that wet to moist soil condition. But again, you can have some adaptability with a species like this. I've got it growing in areas with more shade, with drier soils, and it still does pretty well. You might get some leaf wilt and things like that if it's in too dry of soil. But I've had really great success with this in many different conditions, besides your full blazing sun with incredibly dry soil combination. It's a really great one. Usually for me, it's in the 3 to 4 foot high range, but it can get bigger. It can stay smaller. Its flowers have different shades of pink. You can have some dark pink flowers like this. You can have some light pink ones, and that variability is kind of nice as well. Adds some interest, in my opinion. So this is, of course, a monarch host plant, which is one of the reasons why I would recommend for the homeowner to have this plant in their garden. Because who doesn't want to see that beautiful monarch, which you're basically guaranteed to get at some point in the summertime. I love going out into my prairie and my gardens to find the eggs and the caterpillars, and of course to watch the butterflies go back and forth from flower to flower. Not to mention all of the other pollinators that love this plant. I will say that this plant is not quite as dense as the plant that I mentioned before, that slender mountain mint. So I will usually plant this milkweed with a combination of other natives. You might put in little blue stem with it, maybe a ground cover of rosy sedge or something, just to start filling in some of that airiness that the swamp milkweed has. Some people might really like that airiness, but some others want a little bit more structure than what this one can give on its own. So therefore, I usually put in, between 2 and 3 other species with this one in the home landscape. The third species that I'll talk about, moving away from the forbs and into the shrub category, is red chokeberry, Aronia arbutifolia. I have just recently started using this shrub, and I wish I would have started when I first started doing landscaping when I was like 12. It is just an outstanding plant. And I just think it's amazing that it is a native plant to the eastern half of North America. This one does have a lot of cultivars that can be found at a lot of different nurseries. The straight native species can grow to be quite large, which is why a lot of people choose to go with cultivars. One such is Brilliantissima that I have used in my personal gardens. But it really is, whether or not you're using the straight species, it is a true 4-season interest shrub. In the spring, you have these incredible white flowers. They're really, for lack of better words, they're cute. They're not the main attraction of this plant, but I think they're really nice. And then, of course, you move into fall. And I mean, the fall color with this one is outstanding. And to tie it in with Martha's Tupelo, I mean, this one's got the same kind of colors that, they go from a dark green glossy foliage in the summertime, which is beautiful on its own. And then in the fall, they're just absolutely covered in this brilliant crimson red. You can get oranges in there, yellows, and I know that our listeners can't see the screen that I'm sharing, but in early October or so, just as the leaves are starting to change, you can still have some green leaves on there, and it just adds a really cool color combination to the garden. And then, of course, in the winter months, you come on with its namesake, those red berries, really just an outstanding display. What I'm showing here is the straight native species, and as you can see, it's just loaded with berries. Some say that the cultivars will have even better berry onset, better fall color. I have found that they're about the same. To me, it's probably that size difference that people will want to go with a cultivar on this one, because they can get 10 feet tall, 12 feet tall max in the wild. But a lot of people don't really want to have something that large in the home landscape. This one does like to be in full sun again, but it can take a little bit of shade, and it prefers to be in mesic soil. At the Red Oak Rain Garden on the University of Illinois campus in Urbana, we planted several large groupings of these in fall 2019, and hundreds and hundreds of people pass that garden every day. And as I'm out there, observing the plant life and the wildlife and all of that that's happening at the garden, almost every day I'm out there, I see people stop and take a photo of this plant in just about every season, especially right now with the snow on the ground. It's really great. The birds love eating these berries. The berries are edible, and I've had Aronia jam before, and I can tell you it is delicious. The fruit straight from the shrub might be pretty bitter, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. I have tried it, and I can confirm that they are bitter, but with the right amount of sugar and other ingredients, they can make a really wonderful jelly or jam. So those are my 3 species. And I mean, I could go on and on, but until next time, I guess.
Well, that was some great information about those wonderful plants. I know I have quite a bit of swamp milkweed in my own yard, and I try to cultivate that every single year to get more and more of it. The Good Growing Podcast is a production of University of Illinois Extension and edited this week by me, Chris Enroth. Listeners, we really thank you for doing what you do best, and that is listening, or if you're watching this on YouTube, watching. And as always, keep on growing.